Okay.
Good evening, everyone, and Joe will start us off with the introduction.
Oh, wow. Spot there. Boys and girls, all my traumaholics, all the light nights out there. Welcome back to Otherobert. I, of course, am Joe, and that's Rob. And Rob, you're not Yelping.
I am not Yelping. Though I actually have talked to people at Yelp before, which is funny. But no. I am not Yelping. This is that episode, season 4 of 19. I liked it. It was fun.
Yes. Season 19, episode 4, South Park, you're not Yelping. Funny episode. Okay. It was another episode with a good concept, like we saw with episode 3, but it wasn't the funniest episode until I would say the last 5 minutes made up for the lack of laughter. I thought those last 5 minutes were comedic gold.
You know, one thing, this episode just kind of made me think of what I always had thought of South Park to have been like non-episodic or canonical things, like random episodes that are funny. And that's what I kind of felt with this. Granted, the Whole Foods Center was in this episode too.
Yeah, I mean the whole thing with the downtown too, that kind of gimmick they had going on with episode 3. It felt like episode 3 leaked into this one, but not necessarily episodes 1 and 2.
Yeah,
so we still have that canon.
Yeah, there's canon, but like it's not like like what happened in 3 is like leading into episode 4. Which I thought was good.
Right, I was expecting some kind of PC reference or something that we ultimately did not get. But all right, breaking down the episode. What did you think? The writing this episode.
I thought it was great. Honestly, this episode was like the standard that I've always had of South Park. For my version of funny. I know that you said that you didn't think it was that funny till the end of it, but I laughed quite a bit with it. I liked it. And I thought Cartman, just because it is in the description of the episode, it's his episode, but he totally stole the show here, which is good because he wasn't really a big part of 2 and 3.
Right, we got classic Cartman here. And that's something we almost saw in episode 1, but it didn't really pack a punch with him. We got a classic Cartman episode where it's Cartman being the only way he can be. It's great.
Yeah. Just for anyone who uses, I'm not the biggest South Park historian. So with last season where Cartman was a really big part of it, especially dealing with the video game episode where he is the one online, and that was his episode the whole time for like the last 2 episodes of the season. I felt that was kind of like, hey, we gave him some of the finale, now we'll give him some mid-season 19. Just because, it was he was on the screen almost all the time.
Well, Cartman, if you go down the line,
he's the main character.
Yeah, I imagine. There's the 4 main boys, but he's pretty much the standout here. Yeah. He's always kind of the main antagonist.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was great. It was classic Cartman. And what I really loved, I'll say, this was the most creative episode of season 19, I would argue, because of the comparisons with the Yelp critics and ultimately where that went towards the end of the episode where it became a war zone.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was pretty clever in the way that they escalated it, and kind of they always take things to the extreme, right? So they took this to the extreme, and in the way they did it, it was funny, even if it wasn't the most laugh out loud funny episode. You could still acknowledge it. What they were doing was funny, except for the last 5 minutes. That was completely laugh out loud for me. I was almost on the floor the last 5 minutes.
I think my favorite part of the episode was Cartman and David, or David. Their interactions were probably my favorite, just because I felt so bad for him, and I also liked him as a character, David. So I think those two were my favorite parts of this episode, just where he's like, "Do you ride your teeny tiny bicicleta to school?" Like, that was the standout quote for me.
Yeah, and that's classic Cartman. I keep saying that, but it really is. We saw classic Cartman here. This is we got an episode seeing Cartman do what he does.
Well, yeah, he likes to be the best, it seems, in almost everything, and just not even the best, but be the most dominating.
Yeah.
Which makes him quite antagonistic.
He had authority, which is that goes back to seasons 1 and 2. How much he loves authority. So,
well, isn't one of his quotes like, "You will respect my authority"?
Yeah, and that's from a season 2 episode. And he had authority in this episode, and it fit the character. It fit the comparisons they were trying to meet here. The Gerald parts were hilarious. I love that they keep giving all these the fathers of the boys. I love how they keep giving them kind of improved roles. Gerald kind of had his own kind of role in this episode. It was really funny with him typing on the computer. We saw the detective back, Detective Harris, and his wife made a return. She's been in an episode before.
I overall, it was classic. It was a classical episode, I guess you could say, for fans of South Park.
I keep saying this. I've said this probably for every episode this season, but this feels like a classic South Park episode presented in a new way, and that's not a bad thing. That's a very good thing. They really have a theme down for this season, where every episode, even if it's not a standout, episode 3 was not a standout, but it was still solid in its own way. And while I would argue the first 2 episodes of the season were better than the latter 2, that this one was still a very solid entry and was still funny, and definitely solid.
Yeah, no, I would agree with that, and I would say I enjoyed the episode quite a bit. I already gave all my points about it, so I don't have too much else to say.
All right,
on that.
So then we want to know what you guys have to say. What do you think of this week's episode? Where do you rank this in terms of the other episodes in season 19?
The 3.
Yeah, right. The first 3 episodes. And what do you think of season 19 so far? I mean, we're 4 episodes down at this point.
6 to go.
What do you think? Yeah, I enjoy this season a lot so far. It makes up for that mess we had last season.
Well, we won't talk about that.
We'll pretend doesn't exist.
All right. So thank you, everyone.
Yes, and subscribe
watching.
Because it takes around this much effort to do so.
And I am Robert. That is Joe. And thank you for tuning into this review of South Park. And we'll see you all next week for another live South Park review. Bye, guys.